This morning, our valley continues to mourn the loss of North Las Vegas police officer Jason Roscow.
A beloved father, friend, and mentor who lost his life in the line of duty on February 4th.
Wonderful person. And we feel very sorry for his family.
The tragedy reminding all of us of the courage of our men and women in blue.
Officer Roscow's passing serves as a reminder of the extreme dangers that men and women in uniform face every day as they courageously protect and serve our community.
Today, a final goodbye to the man who made the ultimate sacrifice to keep our community safe.
Thank you for joining us for this special edition of Channel 13 News. I'm Anjali Patel.
And I'm Justin Hinton. Right now, family, friends, our community, and fellow law enforcement officers are gathering to honor North Las Vegas police officer Jason Roscow.
Officer Roscow was killed in the line of duty back on February 4th, and this morning a procession will soon get underway to honor his 17 years of service to North Las Vegas. Our team is out all along the procession route this morning to capture the sights, sounds, and moments as the valley prepares to say goodbye to a man who made the ultimate sacrifice for our community. Officer
Jason Roscow takes his final journey across the valley this morning before heading to Illinois, his home state, where he will be laid to rest. We'll check in with the team shortly, but we want to show you the route. Officer Roscow's casket will be escorted from Paul Mortuary on Jones Boulevard to Central Church in Henderson for a celebration of life service.
The procession will travel down Las Vegas Boulevard, where marquees lining the Las Vegas Strip will light up with messages in his honor before continuing on to the church, where that service is expected to begin around 10 o'clock. But for now, we do want to focus on Palm Mortuary. That is, of course, where the journey begins. It's where Officer Jason Roscow's body will soon be carried out for a full police escort. Isabella Martin is at the mortuary right now. And Isabella, it certainly is a somber day, but today is also about recognizing and celebrating what he meant to our community.
Yes, Anjali, definitely. Right now we are at Palm Mortuaries, where the motorcade is officially moving. If you take a look right behind me, you can see law enforcement agencies from across the valley, including Metro and Nevada Highway Patrol, all gathered here, leading him in a motorcade to Central Church in Henderson. Now, I'm going to have my photojournalist, Robert Noble, zoom into the motorcycle right in front of me, which I was told by a police officer that actually belongs to Officer Roscow. Now, if you take a look right in front of me now, you'll see Metro. They are leading him out, and zooming in right there, that is his casket. I'm going to toss it to you, Justin and Anjali.
All right, thank you, Isabella. Certainly a sight to behold, a sight that we have seen far too many times in this community over the last several years. But you see how many officers have come for this moment. These officers are coming from really all across the country to pay their respects.
Yeah, it's a multi-agency effort, not just here, but like you mentioned, across the entire nation. When one person in law enforcement passes away, it's a loss felt by so many people around the country. And we do want to speak now a little bit to the person that Officer Jason Roscow was. 17-year veteran of the North Las Vegas Police Force. He'd been there since 2007. He worked in the traffic division for several years before returning to patrol in February of 2024. Roscow is actually recognized with an exemplary service award during his time in that traffic division. And then even prior to his time as a police officer, he proudly served his country in the U.S. Air Force Security Forces. So clearly someone who's dedicated to serving his community.
Yeah, North Las Vegas Police Department says that he was kind and full of compassion, and his service really went beyond the badge. You see right there the casket making its way to Central Church in Henderson. They said he was a friend, a mentor, and a true example of what it means to care deeply for others. One example of that, he built a bench at the North Central Area Command where he works. They say that stands as a testament to the care and the pride he poured into his work and to his team.
And this procession this morning swiftly getting underway. Right now, we just saw that casket pass by our shot there, and now it's followed by a long line of different law enforcement vehicles. You'll probably see people lining the streets. I mean, rain or shine, this is something people should come out for to pay their respects to Officer Roscow and the way he's paid that ultimate sacrifice for our safety and for our community. Now, speaking again a little bit to the man that he was, I got a chance to read his obituary over on the Injured Police Officers Fund website, and it read that he's remembered for always being the life of the party. his 2 young sons he leaves behind. They were, of course, his pride and joy. He enjoyed skiing, riding motorcycles, as we saw that motorcycle not long ago. He's also a St. Louis Cardinals fan. So beyond the badge, he was a human being who was loved and cherished by so many here in the Las Vegas Valley.
Yeah, they say he was known as a protector and a friend to all. You mentioned those 2 young sons, Grayson and Andrew. Grayson's 9, Andrew is 4. So certainly this community is going to rally around those 2 boys with the loss of their father. You talk about the legacy that he leaves behind. North Las Vegas Police Department says it's a legacy of courage, one of compassion, and one of service. They even shared a photo shoot with his team. It was taken just the hours before he lost his life. They were on a playground, just having a good fun. Really points to the laughter and the life that he brought each and every day when he was out there protecting our community.
Absolutely, and this procession and celebration of life service we're going to see today is really, it's something that's got a lot of tradition and honor baked into really every single aspect. And right now, we do want to bring in retired Metro Lieutenant, that is Randy Sutton. We really appreciate your insight, Randy, when it comes to things like this. And you bring a really unique perspective because you served with Metro's Honor Guard. So you were involved in a lot of these ceremonies, unfortunately, for fallen officers. Tell me about some of the tradition that is what we're going to see today.
You know, tradition and symbolism is truly important to the law enforcement community. When you talk about the final respects for an officer who was murdered in the line of duty, you know, I've been listening to all the broadcasting about it. We talk about him he's passed away. He was murdered. Let's be really clear about what took place here. He was murdered in the line of duty, serving and protecting the people of North Las Vegas. And we shouldn't sugarcoat that, because this is a demonstrative of what faces, the dangers that face every single police officer in the Vegas Valley and around our nation. So the symbolism of what we're seeing today, the honors of multiple agencies, you know, there will be representatives from police officers, police departments all over the nation here today. And this is really important for the continuity of what this career field means. It isn't just a job. It isn't just something to do for a few years. There's a calling here. And the men and women who take up that mantle of a police officer and serve, they're special people. But every single one of them deals with the reality of there but for the grace of God go I.
I mean, 17 years, you talk about how much people give and sacrifice for this position. I mean, 17 years is a long time to be an officer, starting with patrol, moving then to the traffic division, and then returning to patrol. So he's out there on the streets every single day. And
you know, that's a choice. At 17 years, he could have taken an inside job. He could have, you know, switched into a different path in his career. But the fact that he chose patrol, which is where the rubber meets the road on any police department, shows that that's the kind of individual he was. And I want to bring something up here, and that is the warrior spirit. The warrior spirit is something that is not talked about enough in law enforcement. And this police officer, Roscow, he embodied the warrior spirit, as is evidenced by, in the middle of combat, being mortally wounded, he still is able to take down his assailant. And that is something that every police officer needs to embrace, is that warrior spirit, because that is actually imperative for being a true police officer.
A warrior and a hero in his own right for making that ultimate sacrifice so we could all be safe in this community. Right now you're watching from our traffic camera at Jones and Upland. You're watching that motorcycle, all those motorcycles making their way down the street there. They're going to make their way there and then to the Las Vegas Boulevard, and then they're going to make their way onto the 215, eventually down to Central Church in Henderson, where that celebration of life service will be held. That's just an outline of the route they will be taking. And all throughout this, we're also likely going to see some of the marquees on the Las Vegas Strip lit up with his image and thanking him for his many years of service to our community. Mentioned not just with the North Las Vegas Police Department, but even prior to that with the U.S. Air Force, someone who was so dedicated to our community, to our country, giving his life in so many ways. And we do also want to talk about, we mentioned he has 2 sons that he leaves behind. It is so important to think about that family. It's not just a department mourning this loss, but it's a family that's left picking up the pieces. And if you're able to, there is a fund that you can donate to. Just go to ipof.vegas, where you can make a direct donation to his family. You can find a link to that right there on the homepage of the website. And Randy, I want to ask you about how important that financial support is when an officer passes away for his family.
You know, he was the breadwinner for the family. He's a 17-year police officer. Police officers get paid okay. Nobody's getting rich being a cop. And when you're talking about stretching the dollar to feed your family, a police officer's salary only goes so far. What happens now, and this will surprise many people, but there's not a lot of life insurance. Police officers don't get a lot of life insurance when they sign on to the department. So his wife will get his pension. There will be some federal benefits that take place, but these are 2 young children that are facing a life without their dad, and the financial stresses that go with the end of life are huge. So I got to tell you this though, the law enforcement community and the Las Vegas community are so generous. The people of the Vegas Valley, they always step up.
Yeah, they really do. And we know that this community will step up for this family as well. I was able to see a video not too long ago with one of his young sons. He was changing his diaper. And you could see how much he loved this little boy, because he is making the most disgusting face you could possibly imagine, and basically retching at the smell. Obviously, he's joking in this moment, but it was just so nice to be able to see that touching moment and how much he cares and loves this family of his. Also, loved his bike. I was reading a story about a neighbor who drove by Officer Roscow's house with his grandson. He says he was cleaning his bike, which is what he normally does, and his grandson had asked him if he was a nice policeman or a mean one. And instead of just telling him the answer, he decided that he was going to let his grandson decide. So they get out the car, they start talking to Officer Roscow. He says that Officer Roscow spent 30 minutes just talking to his grandson about the bike, about all the components that make it up, and the grandson loved it. So needless to say, at the very end of this conversation, the grandson said, yeah, he's a nice one. And that really just puts the emphasis on the type of person that Officer Roscow was.
Yeah, and I think it brings up an important point that today is, of course, a really sad day, but we should also remember the good things and celebrate the life that he had, the full life that he had with his children and with our community. We've been able to, over the last week or so since his passing, we've been able to talk with people who knew him very well, including one young police cadet who's getting ready to enter the academy. She said she knew Officer Roscow very, very well, and she plans to take what he taught her into her life in the academy and into her life in service. So just want to give you a little bit of a listen in to what she told us.
He was always the kindest in the room, always brought a smile into briefing in the morning, cracking jokes all the time. We always had a smile on our face being in the same room as him. It was hard not to be happy around him. I decided to bring flowers because he meant a lot to me personally, learning from him, and also our squad and just this police department in general. And this is an amazing thing that we're able to do as a community.
Yeah, and you saw that car that she was standing next to covered with flowers. That is one of the tributes that we've seen to Officer Roscow over the last week. That was a patrol car set up at the North Central Area Command, and we've seen so many flowers, sticky notes, people writing memories they had with Officer Roscow. Really, the community has come together in so many ways to support him.
Yeah, I went out there yesterday to read some of those messages to see what community members were saying about him, and they had a lot of great things to say. A lot of his brothers and sisters in blue, one saying, "I'm going to miss hearing you on the radio." They said they were blessed and thankful that they were able to work together. Another one said or thanked him for getting them through motor school. So it's so many different ways that he impacted folks' lives throughout the community, the young and the old, even someone who had an issue. She had a car accident, and he was the one that was attending to that case.
Wow.
And he just talked with her, and she said, you know, just being able to have somebody sit there and talk to me until my friend came was a great thing. So it really gives you a good perspective on the type of person that he was.
And I think we got a really good idea of the magnitude of this loss for the community when a community vigil was held back on February 6th, 2 days after he was killed. This was held at the North Las Vegas City Hall, and hundreds of people showed up to share their memories and their thoughts about what this officer meant to them. That is really just one of the tributes we've seen. I mean, earlier this week, the Injured Police Officers Fund held a fundraiser at the Nevada Coin Mart to raise money for his family, rather. We even saw a local restaurant, Texas Roadhouse on East Craig Road, donating 10% of food purchases back on February 11th to Officer Roscow's sons. Of course, there was that procession last week that carried his body from the coroner's office to Palm Mortuary on Jones Boulevard. So there's just countless ways the community is coming together to remember him, and what you're looking at right now is just perhaps one of the biggest displays of support for him and his family and the North Las Vegas Police Department as we continue to watch that procession move along. Now they're going down at Valley View.
Yeah, the police department saying that he was a gift to everyone who knew him, that he would lend a hand, offer a smile, or go the extra mile to make things better for someone, leaving behind a legacy of courage, compassion, and service, touching so many different parts of this community. You see these processions, and it really does make you stop and just think about the dangers that these officers go through day in and day out, the sacrifice that they are willing to make to keep all of us safe. So it is important to thank them for what they do, and this is our way of thanking them for what they have done.
Absolutely. And look, even the casinos on Las Vegas Boulevard finding ways to say thank you. We mentioned we will be seeing marquees along the strip showing pictures of Officer Roscow. You see one right there at Caesar's Palace. It's good to see, everyday people and then even big businesses, big corporations finding ways to thank him because, it's officers who keep us safe day in and day out. And Officer Roscow died in an effort to keep our community safe. So certainly a very, very big loss for our community. I also want to give you some context as to the North Las Vegas Police Department and, kind of how they're dealing with this loss and their history of losing officers. So according to the Officer Down Memorial page, the last North Las Vegas officer death was back in 2017, Detective Chad William Parquet. He was unfortunately hit by a wrong-way driver. And then back in 1995, prior to that, Raul Elizondo was slain in the line of duty. He was, fatally shot by a suspect. So the North Las Vegas Police Department fortunately has not had to deal with this kind of loss in several years. And now it has happened, and certainly our hearts and our thoughts go out to that department right now.
Yeah, folks are familiar with Elizondo Elementary School. It was named after him in 1999. But to your point, when we talk about line of duty deaths here in this state, there have been 142. Officer Snyder, I want to bring you back in because I haven't seen, especially in the last 5 years or so, if you take away those officers who died because of COVID-19, there have been 8 law enforcement officers who have died in the last 5 years in the line of duty. Right. I don't see any other cities or any other regions where that happens. Why does that happen here in this area?
Actually, we're actually lower than many areas.
Really?
Yeah. So far this year, 8 police officers have lost their lives in the line of duty. Officer Roscow was the 7th this year. But almost every single day a police officer is shot in the line of duty. And that's a startling statistic. And unfortunately in the last few years, this has been the trend. In addition to that, last year more than 70,000 American law enforcement officers were physically attacked, physically assaulted in the line of duty. They were shot, they were stabbed, they were beaten, they were hit with bricks, they were hit with bottles, and some lost their lives. And then there are those who have been severely injured. You know, my organization is the Wounded Blue, and we help injured and disabled officers across this nation. So I live this reality every single day. And many of the men and women who are severely injured and disabled become the forgotten people. And this is something that when an officer loses their life, we celebrate them. We celebrate with processions and it's vital that we do that. But they are paying the ultimate sacrifice. So many others are being injured in the line of duty, and we have to remember those men and women as well.
And that also emphasizes the importance of the Injured Police Officer Fund, which supports the families of injured officers as well as fallen officers. In this case, they'll be helping the family of Officer Roscow. Now, yesterday we actually got to hear from the North Las Vegas police chief about just how dangerous this job can be. I want to give you a moment here to listen in to what she had to say.
Officer Roscow's passing serves as a reminder of the extreme dangers that men and women in uniform face every day as they courageously protect and serve our community.
And I think that just speaks to the fact that, you know, children, spouses, whoever it may be, when they send their loved one off who is in law enforcement, when they send them off each day out to be on the job, you know, there's always a chance that that'll be the last time they see them, right? Of course, you never hope for that to be the case, but that's just the reality that so many officers and their families live with. And unfortunately, in this case, it just went absolutely in the most terrible way.
And sometimes, you know, you take it for granted. I mean, I'm the son of a former police officer. He's now retired. And even as a child, I never thought that my dad wasn't going to come back home at the end of the day, right? You just expect them to. But then as you get to be an adult, you realize it is a gift, right? And so that's something that every day is a gift. And that's something that we really have to think about as adults and think about our actions too, and making sure that these officers do come home safely.
And you know, this is where the legacy aspect of policing is something that I'd like to talk about. You know, we heard that young female cadet talk about what it meant to her to have the mentorship of Officer Roscow. And this is the legacy of policing. It's not talked about as much as it should be, because every time a police officer has a connection, has a contact with another person, whether that person is a coworker or is a citizen, they leave something of themselves behind. And that is the power of policing, that legacy aspect. And that's why this officer left an incredible legacy during his lifetime as a cop. You could tell by the respect, by the admiration, and by the love that's been shown.
I mean, even that story of the one woman who was in the car accident and he just talked to her, how her life was changed by that, right? Just in that moment of probably a scary situation, not knowing how it was going to end, waiting for your friend to come and pick you up, and an officer's there just to talk to you to get you through that part of your life.
Well, remember that our officers are not dealing with people at their best, right? I mean, when there's a connection, when there's a contact, it's usually not because of a positive. That nobody's calling us to say, hey, I'm having my birthday today. Come over and celebrate it with me. They're not doing that. It's usually at the worst moments of people's lives. And how officers connect with the people that they serve, that is what's so critical. And when you have a positive response from someone that you've dealt with during the worst time of their life, that's the legacy part that is so important to policing.
Yeah, and what we're seeing today is people repaying that favor to Officer Roscow, right? This is our way of saying thank you to him for making that ultimate sacrifice and for serving our community. And as this procession continues to move along Valley roads, we're going to eventually see it end at Central Church in Henderson. That is where that celebration of life service is going to be held. And right now, our Abel Garcia is actually there. So we want to send things over to him. Abel, I'm sure it's quiet there, but things are going to be changing pretty soon.
Absolutely, Anjali. I mean, every time we are here, it's something that we never expect to have to be here once again to witness such a very devastating and sad situation. Of course, when we lose a member of our law enforcement, it is never something that is easy. But I want to give you guys a live look right now of what we're dealing with here at Central Church in Henderson, where we are awaiting that procession to finally arrive. Right now, it's looking empty, but I want you guys to just think a little bit about just what we are thinking as well, right? In a little bit, we will be able to see all of these different members of Honor Guard from all these different law enforcement agencies gathering right here in front of Central Church in Henderson. And I want to say it's truly admirable, of course, while this is a very sad situation, to see their discipline, to see the dedication that they have here as well. It's admirable to see how the members of our law enforcement, how our community rallies together to honor and remember our fallen officers. Especially on this occasion, we are honoring Officer Jason Roscow with the North Las Vegas Police Department, but we are just continuing to witness people who are arriving here to Central Church in Henderson. Of course, this is also open to everybody here in the community as well. So it's just been admirable to witness the people who rally together, the officers, the law enforcement communities who of course are devastated to lose another member of their law enforcement. It's something that's very, very devastating, but it's remarkable to see how the community of Las Vegas and really the whole entire law enforcement family comes together to honor and remember those who have fallen. I'll send it back to you.
All right, Abel, thank you. You talk about the man who Officer Jason Roscow was, someone who was a friend, a mentor, and he really displayed what it meant to care deeply for others. And that's not just with people. I was reading a story as well, how he was getting ready to go to work, and he had called someone to pick up an injured pigeon that was at his home because he just couldn't leave and start a shift without knowing how that pigeon was going to be. So a friend to people and to pets and to animals. So a great person.
He cared for any life, right? I think that's just what that goes to show. He impacted so many people across the valley. And when you talk about, law enforcement being a part of this procession, it's not only just them. I mean, you see first responders, we see, fire vehicles making their way down the streets now too. And we're getting a look at another marquee now, the Link Promenade, paying tribute to Officer Jason Roscow. It is so good to see so many different businesses and companies also remembering that this community is nothing without our law enforcement and the people who keep us safe. Now, actually this morning, as far as tributes go, we got to see a pretty powerful one here on Las Vegas Boulevard as we get closer to that Welcome to Fabulous Las Vegas sign. A man actually set up 17 thin blue line flags at the Welcome to Fabulous Las Vegas sign, each flag representing each year of service that Officer Roscow gave to North Las Vegas. So it's just been so heartwarming to see the community do what it needs to do, really, and say thank you.
Absolutely. So we just want to take a little bit of time right now to just let you watch and see as this procession makes its way to Central Church for the funeral.
imagery here as we watch car after car making their way down Las Vegas Boulevard with their lights on. This is just such a powerful way to pay tribute to fallen North Las Vegas police officer Jason Roscow, who we lost last Tuesday after he was killed in the line of duty. Yet right now they're making their way down Las Vegas Boulevard. They will eventually find their way to Central Church in Henderson.
Yeah, and one of the spots where they will pass by is at the Welcome to Fabulous Las Vegas sign. And near that sign, you'll see 17 flags that are representing the years of service that Officer Roscow gave to the North Las Vegas community. We had him on Good Morning Las Vegas this morning talking about the significance of why he likes to do this, and it is to give respect and to honor those who have given back to us. I was trying to look at some of the names on the side of these police cars. It's a little difficult to see, but we know that they come from all across the country to pay their respects and to participate in this procession that makes its way down the strip to Central Church.
And one person that really knows about all of the tradition and the ceremony that is put into all of this is retired Metro Police Lieutenant Randy Sutton, who is joining us now. And Randy, you were a member of the Honor Guard for Metro Police for many years. You're very familiar with this process. So when this procession reaches Central Church in Henderson, what can we expect there?
Well, when everybody pulls into the parking lot, there's a logistical, this is planning for this is pretty difficult, making sure that all the units will, have access and egress. When they get there, the casket, of course, is the central focus here. And the honor guards, there will be a combined honor guard from all of Southern Nevada there. There may be other members of honor guards from all over the country who will be there in their full dress uniforms, who will line up in a respectful way, and then they will take the casket, and there will be the honor guards will be on either side of that casket to bring it into the church, where it will be on display, and there will be honor guard officers that will be guarding the casket. And that's part of the tradition.
Yeah, we know that is supposed to get started at 10 o'clock, but when you have this many folks who want to come, it often could take longer than that. But it takes the time that it takes for folks to be able to line this procession route, to maybe wave, to maybe salute, maybe have their hand over their heart to say thank you for what Officer Roscow has done for this community.
And that means so much to those officers in those cars right there. Each one of those officers that's in that procession, they're there because they want to be there. These aren't assignments. These are, I want to be in that procession. And when they see the citizens, and they see the respect from the casinos by having his photograph up there, that's something that's deeply meaningful to the men and women who are in that procession right now.
And you spoke earlier about just how much law enforcement means to this community. I mean, we really have seen such an outpouring of support for Officer Roscow's family, for the North Las Vegas Police Department. This is a community that really does cherish its law enforcement, and we've seen that through a variety of fundraisers, tributes over the last week or so. If you would like to contribute and help his family, they should really just be focusing on the healing and the mourning process right now. So if you want to help them take care of that financial part, go to ipof.vegas. That is the only verified donation point to support his family. That is the Injured Police Officers Fund. They do wonderful, wonderful work in our community, supporting injured and fallen law enforcement and their families. As I mentioned, the only verified fundraiser, but a good way to show your support for the family, and especially those two young sons that Officer Roscow leaves behind.
Yeah, and as we look at these motorcycle officers passing the Welcome to Fabulous Las Vegas sign, they are also seeing those flags as well that are honoring each year of service Officer Roscow gave with the North Las Vegas Police Department. He started with that department in June of 2007 in the patrol operations, then moved to the traffic division in February of 2013, and then moved back to patrol operations in February of 2024. And there you see his casket passing right there.
Yes, and also we do want to mention all those thin blue line flags you see on the left of your screen there at the Welcome to Las Vegas sign. There's also a state flag for the state of Illinois, and that is to honor Officer Roscow's home state. That is where he will be eventually laid to rest, there in his hometown in Illinois. You know, Las Vegas, North Las Vegas, I should say, was his adopted home, but he fully embraced this community in so many ways. And we've seen that through that growing memorial on that police vehicle at the North Central Area Command where he was assigned to. So many flowers and so many notes that you got the chance to read that people had written, sharing their memories and their thoughts.
Yeah, another one, one person said, you know, thank you for giving me some of the most positive experiences when they got to the department. So this was Officer Roscoe, somebody who welcomed folks who came into that department. Another one said, thank you for welcoming me with open arms. They said that Officer Roscoe made them feel like a part of the family from day one. And then they said that they would never forget their donut and their lunch dates. So you gotta love that, right? Talk about being a police officer and that running joke. They also thanked them for their guidance and his knowledge that he imparted on them. So really two communities in a sense are mourning his loss. You have the Las Vegas Valley and also Illinois. And it's part of Running for Heroes. It's a nonprofit that honors fallen first responders. Well, there's a 15-year-old in Illinois who doesn't have any personal connection to Officer Roscoe, and he decided to run a mile to pay tribute to Officer Roscoe. It just goes to show you how much people do support officers and Officer Roscoe in particular.
Yeah, whether you knew him personally or not, it is clear that he was a very special person. And it's important to remember not just the man in the uniform, but the human being under that uniform. Reading his obituary, he was known as the life of the party. He had 2 young sons. We mentioned his pride and his joy. He also, outside of work, enjoyed skiing, riding motorcycles. He's a St. Louis Cardinals fan. So this isn't just an officer we're mourning. This is a man, this is a father, and a pillar of our community, truly. Now, I want to talk a little bit, though, about his experience in the North Las Vegas Police Department. He was a decorated officer. He was recognized with an Exemplary Service Award during his time in the Traffic Division. He worked in the Traffic Division for several years before eventually returning to patrol in February of 2024. And then prior to that, he proudly served his country in the U.S. Air Force Security Forces. So kudos to him, and thank you for his dedication to serving his community and country in a variety of different ways.
And apparently he was pretty handy with his hands as well. The North Las Vegas Police Department says that he built a bench at the North Central Area Command, and they say it stands as a testament to the care and the pride he poured into his work and into his team. We saw pictures not too long ago of that team, some of those pictures taken on his last day. And you can see the joy and the love that he had for that team and that they had for him. You could see his silly side as well in some of those pictures as they're standing on a playground, and really just a lot of love for that group of individuals. Certainly a sad day, but also a day to remember what he has given to this community, to the community of North Las Vegas, and really to all of us here in the Las Vegas Valley.
And we look forward to learning more about him at that Celebration of Life service that this procession is heading to. That service is going to take place at Central Church in Henderson. That church pretty much almost always host the Celebration of Life services for our local officers who have died in the line of duty. And we look forward to learning more about the man that he was for those of us who weren't lucky enough to know him personally. But for those who were, they certainly had a great benefit, and we're very fortunate to know this man and this officer in our community.
As we look at these vehicles that are in this procession, it really does give you an idea of how many people across this community and across the country are supporting these officers who are going through a difficult time right now. I think about all the messages that we saw shortly after his death. At that time, we didn't know his name. That hadn't been released yet, but a number of agencies across the valley were sending their condolences. Randy, for you, when these officers get these messages of support and they see how other departments across the country are responding and reacting to this, what does that do for these officers who worked with him?
It shows a sense of unity. It shows a deep respect, and this is a good segue into something that's really critically important, and that is those officers who literally were taking photographs with him just prior to his murder are going to be deeply affected by his death. One of the things that is rarely talked about is the trauma that officers go through with the loss of a brother or sister officer. This is something that I'm deeply involved in my capacity as the founder of the Wounded Blue. And I'm, for those officers who are watching this right now, many will be affected by this. And I offer the Wounded Blue to be of service to you. If you're being affected by this, you can reach out to me, Randy at thewoundedblue.org. And sometimes just having somebody to talk to makes a difference.
It's also something that's important to LVMPD Sheriff Kevin McMahill. One of the reasons why they have the Wellness Bureau that was created and opened at the end of last year. So right now it's for Metro officers, but it's something that department wants to get expanded for officers to be able to use across the valley. If folks need it, they would be able to go in. It's also for their families, because you're right. I mean, this is a lot of trauma. This is a lot of stress that these officers have to go through. Talking to some of the folks who work in that department, they say, you know, these officers, they come here, they see these traumas every single day. And what do? Some of them just go home and take it. But now they have an opportunity to be able to talk about it so that they can heal mentally and physically. And that really is the reason why they have that Wellness Bureau.
It's critically important. And Sheriff McMahill is deeply interested in and has worked tirelessly. I'm proud to have worked with him to exchange ideas about how we can make it much more healthy environment for those who serve. And here's another harsh reality that we've seen, is that when an officer dies in the line of duty, sometimes it has such a dramatic effect that other officers will resign their jobs because it's a harsh slap in the face sometimes to realize, you know, we all become a little bit complacent, right? I mean, especially you're doing the job for 20 or 30 years. When you actually see a friend die, it can have the effect of, you know, maybe it's time for me to move on. So we see sometimes an uptick in retirements or resignations during times like this.
Yeah, mental health is something that has been taboo in a lot of communities for such a long time, and it's good to see finally that tide kind of shifting and changing a bit, and that conversation being brought to the forefront, because when you see situations like this, an officer killed in the line of duty, it certainly is important to keep mental health at the forefront and think about all the people who are left, his brothers and sisters in service, to pick up those pieces. Also want to mention he's got a family that is left to pick up those pieces, 2 young sons. So if you would like to support that family so they can focus on the mourning and just help them with those finances in the wake of his passing, you can go to ipof.vegas. There is a donation point right there on the homepage of the Injured Police Officer Fund's website. That is the only verified donation point, and I'm sure his family would greatly appreciate that support as they begin to wrap their heads around this unimaginable loss. Right now, we are continuing to watch car after car make their way down Las Vegas Boulevard, past that Welcome to Fabulous Las Vegas sign, where this morning we actually saw a local man named John Wadby put up 17 thin blue line flags, each one in honor of Officer Roscow's 17 years of service to the North Las Vegas Police Department. You talk about a life being cut far too short. He was just 46 years old, and certainly a big loss that will be felt and that will reverberate throughout our community for years and years to come.
You talk about a thin blue line, but this is a thick blue line of support with all of these cars from across the country. You also see the folks who are standing in the middle there in that median, showing their support, right? And even in the rain, they're bundled up, but they wanted to be here for this day to see this procession pass through and to give their respects to Officer Jason Roscow, who gave 17 years of his life to the police department in North Las Vegas. Certainly a sight to see with all of these cars that continue to make their way through the strip where we saw them not too long ago, past the Welcome to Fabulous Las Vegas sign, on their way to Central Church in Henderson.
And it's clear that he was so dedicated to serving his community and getting more people interested in that profession. I mean, we got to hear from a cadet recently who had stopped by that memorial site to pay their respects to Officer Roscow. That cadet had told us that they were kind of being mentored in a way by Officer Roscow, and they hope to take what they learned from the officer into their work in the police academy and eventually their work as an official police officer. So Officer Roscow meant a lot to a lot of people, young people in our community who are interested in entering this profession. Such an important profession, and it's wonderful to see the community recognizing that and realizing that today.
Yeah, and it really puts into perspective the North Las Vegas Police Department saying that he was a gift to everyone who knew him. They said he was there to lend a hand, offer a smile, or go the extra mile to make things better for someone else. And when someone is just there to offer you a smile, that really can make all the difference in the world. Just asking somebody, hey, how are you doing? What can I do to help you? And that really goes a long way. All these folks out here wanting to say thank you for what he has done for them.
And he really helped so many people in a variety of different ways, whether it was in a law enforcement capacity or some of the stories that you read that people had written on the sticky notes on that patrol car in his honor. He seems like someone who was willing to help really anyone who needed uplifting.
Yeah, I mean, somebody even saying that they're just going to miss him on the radio, right? When we talk about these officers, they're so connected to other members in their department. Even if you may not necessarily work with them regularly, you do hear them on the radio. You get used to that voice, right? So, and I imagine just listening to that voice is what you might be imagining they're looking like when they're saying those things, right? All of those things have such deep meaning for a lot of the folks who were there, whether it's your first day at the department, like someone said, like he welcomed them from day one, or you've been working with him from the very beginning.
You know, one of the things that I think it's important to bring up is the dispatchers. You know, even though they may not have even ever met him, they're co-workers, and they listen to them. They get there's a certain camaraderie that takes place, and the dispatchers are sometimes left out in the thinking process. But even those dispatchers that day in, day out for 17 years were connected to him through the dispatching system, that is also something that they are also feeling. And you can imagine the dispatch personnel that were there on the day he died. Seriously traumatic stuff. And it's something that's not often spoken about, but this is a perspective that, you know, I want to be able to give to the people who are watching this right now, that the law enforcement team is just that. And it encompasses a lot of other people than just the working cops.
You're right, it's a lot of people behind the scenes. Now, something I also want to mention, a few minutes ago we saw a tow truck as part of the procession as well. It's always fascinating to me with these police processions how tow trucks are a part of that. Tell me a little bit about the camaraderie between them and local first responders.
Yeah, well, one of the things that there happens all the time is an interaction between police officers and tow truck personnel, because there's so many. I mean, remember, he was a traffic officer too, right? So he investigated hundreds, if not thousands, of wrecks. And who comes out to help clear those intersections? It's the tow truck operators. So very often there's relationships that take place between those men and women and the officers who are on the street.
So important. Right now, we want to take a look inside Central Church, or outside of Central Church. They are raising the American flag there. You see that on the left side of your screen. This is where the procession will end. You can see a number of officers are already gathered there, ready to welcome Officer Jason Roscow to Central Church, and that is where that funeral is going to take place.
That is such a breathtaking image to me every time we unfortunately have to cover one of these funerals and processions, just that giant American flag flying there, and all of those officers standing right there, the honor guard as well. It is such a beautiful image to see when that casket will finally be welcomed there at Central Church, you know, and that flag flying right there. It is beautiful, and it shows also just how much this officer meant to so many people in our community.
Yeah, when you right below where that flag is, you saw all of those officers that are gathered there. I'm sure more will be making their way as well. You see this procession right now, all those motorcycles leading the way. But it gives you that perspective of how deeply felt his spirit was in this community when all of these folks want to come out and give their thanks to him and their support to this department. Because to your point, Randy, this department is certainly going to need it. You mentioned earlier, Anjali, the history with line of duty deaths. And so when this does happen to a department, it is felt across the entire department, from the dispatchers to the other officers to the community members who might see them when he was working in patrol. So it really does have far-reaching implications, and it really is going to take this whole community coming together.
And what is so remarkable to me too is that when you see that casket arrive at Central Church, you're going to see the honor guard and fellow men and women in service standing there, and it's just so impressive to me that they can maintain such a solemn demeanor. You know, you have to imagine the emotions that they're feeling underneath. Randy, you were a former member of the honor guard with Metro Police.
Yes.
How did you maintain your composure during such a heavy moment?
Oh, it was exceedingly difficult, and it got actually more difficult the more I did. You know, I literally buried hundreds of police officers in my 15 years, or attended their funerals, both from Metro and Southern Nevada, but also from around the country. And you know, there's we all have a glass, if you will, that we have the drops of life go into. And I got to tell you that each funeral became more and more difficult, to the point where I can't even attend anymore.
It's hard. It's hard. You really do feel that impact.
Yeah, this is bringing up so much emotions for me.
It certainly is such a sad day in our community, and we know it's going to bring up a lot of feelings and a lot of emotions for so many people, whether you knew him personally or not. Officer Jason Roscow was such a beloved member of our community, and it is beautiful to see a tribute today that is truly fitting for a hero here in our community. And we mentioned, you know, he passed away last Tuesday after being shot by a suspect, unfortunately. 17-year veteran of the North Las Vegas Police Department since 2007. Prior to that, he was in the U.S. Air Force. We thank him for every aspect of his service to our community and to our country. He will never be forgotten.
And it's a reminder that these things can be tough. Randy, we appreciate you being here to walk people through this, because as emotional as it is still important for you to be here to bring this context to folks about what this means. There could be some young child out there who may not have experienced this, and your explanation of why this is important, why we do this, is so important for this community. So we appreciate you being here to share your experiences. And it's a good reminder for folks out there that there are avenues to get help if you need to talk to someone about this. We know these images can be difficult to watch. We know they can remind you of certain things that may have happened in your life or to a friend's life. And so we definitely encourage folks to get that help and to talk to someone if they need it.
Absolutely, and you know, there is a memorial up off of Cheyenne that I urge every community member to go and take a look at. It's got the names of every police officer in Southern Nevada who has made the ultimate sacrifice and given their lives in the line of duty. There's also another memorial in Carson City at the state capitol. And each year during National Police Week, which is in May, those men and women will be honored at ceremonies at the local level, at the state level, but also in Washington, D.C. Officer Roscow, next year, his name will be engraved in the granite at the National Law Enforcement Memorial in Washington, D.C., where the names of every police officer who's lost his life in the line of duty is memorialized. And in Washington during May, his family will be brought to this place of honor. And I got to tell you, when you talk about 30 to 40,000 law enforcement officers who gather there to pay homage and respect the officers that gave their lives. It is a humbling experience, but also a beautiful experience to see the unity that these sacrifices bring.
And it's not just in those departments, it's across the country where you see that unity. I've been there, and you really do see it. We're taking a look right now at Valley Verde and the 215. I think those officers standing on top of a vehicle. They were saluting a minute ago, welcoming Officer Jason Roscow as he makes his way to Central Church. Such a powerful image right there.
Oh, it definitely is. And I think it's important to note, rain or shine, these officers do their job, and rain or shine, they're going to be here to support a fallen officer and their family when they need it. And that is exactly what we're seeing today. I was speaking to Randy before the show, Las Vegas seeing our first measurable rain in 214 days. It almost feels like it's some divine power is providing this today, on this day that we are saying a final thank you here in the Valley to Officer Jason Roscow. Certainly a somber day, feeling a lot of emotions right now, but we also have to remember all the positive and all the good that he brought to our community, not just as a police officer, but just as a citizen of our community, and all the smiles he gave so many people over his many years of living here in the Valley.
Yeah, kind, dedicated, full of compassion kind of guy is what North Las Vegas police described him as. They say he's a friend, he was a mentor, and a true example of what it means to care deeply for others. You see that in the pictures that we've seen, and the relationship that he has with his sons. You really get that sense in those images that we've seen, and all the messages, all the flowers, all the teddy bears that folks have left on that police unit outside of the area command where he worked in North Las Vegas.
Absolutely. And over the last week or so since he was killed, so many tributes and fundraisers have been held, really showing the spirit of our community and how we really come together to support law enforcement in their time of need. It all started back on February 6th, 2 days after he was killed. A community vigil was held at North Las Vegas City Hall. So many people showing up to show their support for North Las Vegas Police, and right now on the left of your screen you're seeing so many people showing up to support them now as that procession makes its way to Central Church in Henderson, where a celebration of life service will get underway shortly.
Let's just listen in for a little bit and watch as this procession continues to make its way to Central Church.
And as we continue to watch this procession move down the Las Vegas Valley in honor of fallen officer Jason Roscow, we're going to start seeing some of those cars in this motorcade make their way to Central Church in Henderson. You see some people there already lined up outside of that church waiting to receive that procession. And our Abel Garcia is there right now. We want to send things over to him to see what's happening there.
That's right, Anjali. Right now we are in front of Central Church in Henderson. I want to give you guys a look right now of how our honor guard of all these different law enforcement agencies have formed. And I think that's what we also should focus on today. While it's a very devastating and sad day, it's incredible to see the discipline and the organization of these members of our law enforcement, of this honor guard that you see right here, who are following those traditions and paying respect and honoring our fallen officer, Jason Roscow. Of course, this is something that's never easy for them. It was so powerful watching them as they form themselves right along this path here into Central Church here in Henderson. But another part that was so powerful was watching that flag being raised right here in front. I mean, I've done this time and time again, and I have to say it's never easy to be out here on such a devastating and difficult day when we do lose another member of our law enforcement. But it's so powerful to see how our community unites, how our law enforcement family also comes together, and it is incredible to just see the unity that the community of Las Vegas has, to see each and every person out here. We've seen tears, we've seen hugs, emotions from so many members of our law enforcement community and members of our Las Vegas community coming out to support this fallen officer. Now, of course, you guys have mentioned that there will be a celebration of life service here as well, where we're going to hear from many different members of our North Las Vegas Police Department, but we're also going to hear from Officer Jason Roscow's family, his very own brother, Michael. And so, of course, just as emotional as it is out here, it's also going to be a very emotional situation inside of Central Church in Henderson. And again, we are seeing as that procession is now arriving here to Central Church, as they are approaching that exit to make that turnaround into Central Church here again at this area. So this is, again, very powerful images, a very powerful thing to witness as we continue to honor and remember Officer Jason Roscow. I'm going to give you guys a take a look at this procession as it enters now. As we continue to see this procession coming into the area right now that we are currently standing in, it's just remarkable to see. We see fire crews out here. We see many members of our law enforcement, medical emergency vehicles out here, as well as he is forming this procession to honor and remember Officer Jason Roscow. Again, it's not only agencies here from Southern Nevada. We're seeing local law enforcement agencies throughout the entire nation. And as everybody has mentioned many, many times throughout, not only today, but throughout these past couple of weeks, this is such a devastating situation, not only for our community, but the entire law enforcement community across the nation. But again, it's remarkable to see how we unite, how we come together, and it's these challenging times where we truly see how strong our community is. But it's also a time where we are realizing that these members of our law enforcement, they take on that promise, they take that oath to protect and serve our community. This is a risk that they do take, and it's something that we should all remember, that this is the ultimate sacrifice that they do have to take as a result of serving and protecting our community. And so we see, the unity from each and every man and woman here today who is making sure to also honor and pay their respect to Officer Jason Roscow. It's incredible to see all the different law enforcement agencies, all the different groups that are coming out here today to pay their respect. Anjali and Justin, I'll send this back to you.
Yeah, Abel, thank you. And Randy, I do want to bring you back into this because as a member of the Honor Guard, or former member of the Honor Guard, I see so many different uniforms. So I'm curious what the preparation is going into something like this as they get ready to welcome this casket.
Sure. Every one of those people that you see standing up right now, they're at the at-ease position. And they are in line awaiting the casket. Those are all Honor Guard members. You can tell by the different uniforms that they're wearing that those are dress uniforms. They're not made for street duty, as you can see. And what will happen is the casket will move between those officers. And when they do that, they will do what's called a slow hand salute, which will begin when the casket begins its movement from the beginning of where this line of officers is through all the way to the church, the entrance to the church. So these officers will be called to attention when the casket, as you see, is going by right now. They will be brought to attention. They will do a slow hand salute as it makes its way past them. These officers will then be escorted they'll march in columns, very military-like, into the church, where they will be seated in a specific area reserved for the Honor Guards. And then during the service itself, that's where we're going to hear about this man's life. And I guarantee you there are going to be a lot of tears, but there's going to be a lot of laughs as well, because that's what a celebration of life is about. Is it somber? Yes, of course it is, but it also talks about who he was. This is a way that we celebrate who he was as a not just as a police officer, but as an individual, as a man, and as a father and a husband. And there will be some great stories told. There will also be stories told later on in the afternoon when this breaks down, and officers go and celebrate in smaller components, if you will,
sure,
where they will talk about not just this officer, but the meaning of what it means to be a cop. Lots of intensity here.
Absolutely, and we heard from Abel a few moments ago that we're going to hear from members, of course, fellow colleagues in the North Las Vegas Police Department. We're also expecting to hear from Officer Roscow's brother. I'm sure that will be a very heartfelt speech there in honor of his brother, fallen officer Jason Roscow. Randy, you mentioned it's important to remember that it is a sad day. It's also important to remember this is a celebration of life after all, and today is about celebrating the man he was, beyond the badge, even remembered for being the life of the party. His two young sons were his pride and his joy, and the things he enjoyed doing even outside of work that made him the person who he was. He enjoyed skiing, riding motorcycles. I believe even his own motorcycle is part of this procession. He was also a St. Louis Cardinals fan, so a very well-rounded person, with a beautiful personality that we've heard so much about, and we look forward to learning more about through the Celebration of Life service is getting ready to get underway. Of course, we've got to wait for that full procession to make its way to Central Church. We've seen the start of it already arrive.
Yes, and it is long. It stretches for miles and miles and miles, showing how many folks have come from across the country in order to celebrate his life. I saw a Twin Falls sign on one of those police units, so folks are definitely coming from across the country as we see more first responders make their way to Central Church. Right in front of them, you see in the front of your screen is the Honor Guard, ready to welcome the body of Officer Jason Roscow to Central Church for this Celebration of Life service to begin. He's described as leaving behind a legacy of courage, compassion, and service. And really his service went beyond the badge, is how North Las Vegas Police Department describes him, saying that he built a bench at the North Central Area Command, which stands as a testament to the care and pride he poured into his work and into his team. Those are North Las Vegas Fire Department trucks right there, as you see on the left side of your screen.
I'm also curious, Randy, as a retired Metro Police lieutenant who unfortunately has seen many of these processions before, is there any, rhyme or reason to the order of which agencies are placed in that procession?
Yes, well, the North Las Vegas Police Department will have the lead position. And after that, it doesn't really matter. But the symbolism is that this is our officer. So they get the first position. And then usually Metro takes the second position, and then people file in behind them from all over the place.
You see Henderson right here. There looks like an ambulance, and there's a fire truck behind that unit, as well as the cars are still on the interstate, still making their way to Central Church. Shows you just how many folks have come and how many officers have come to pay their respects to Officer Roscow. Certainly a man who made his mark over 17 years with the North Las Vegas Police Department, starting in June of 2007 to his end of watch on February 4th of 2025.
Yeah, and we mentioned earlier, he was just 46 years old, a life taken far, far too soon. We want to give you a little bit of information about his time with North Las Vegas Police. He worked in the traffic division for several years, where he won the Exemplary Service Award before he returned to patrol. That was just last February is when he returned to patrol. Now, before he even got into law enforcement, he served at an even bigger level, serving our country in the U.S. Air Force Security Forces. So he is someone who dedicated his life to others, and today is our chance to repay that favor and say thank you and give him a tribute that is truly fitting for the hero that he was.
And also someone who gave of his time even when he was outside of uniform, out of uniform. One of my favorite stories that I read about was a neighbor who drove by his house with his grandson, and Officer Roscow was outside cleaning his bike, as he said he was often to do, and the grandson asked if he was a nice policeman or a mean one. And instead of telling him, the neighbor decided to let his grandson figure it out for himself. So they got out the car, they approached Officer Roscow, and he says that he spent the next 30 minutes just telling the grandson all about the bike, answering all the questions, and by the end of it, the grandson said, yeah, he's a nice one. Just puts into perspective the kind of person that he was.
And I think it also shows the importance of humanizing police officers. We often just think of these people as men and women in uniform, but they are human beings, and they truly do this job because they care about our community and care about keeping us safe. And that care and is what I'm sure Officer Roscow had in mind as he paid that ultimate sacrifice back on February 4th. Giving his life for our community so that the rest of us could be safe. We thank you, Officer Roscow.
We're taking a look at the flag that is right outside Central Church in Henderson, where the Celebration of Life service will begin shortly for Officer Jason Roscow, a North Las Vegas police officer who was killed in the line of duty on February 4th. We talk about the service that was supposed to start at 10 o'clock, but you just saw that shot of all of those cars still on the highway, and we're approaching 10:30. I don't think, Randy Sutton and Anjali, in the couple of processions I've covered, I've seen this many vehicles participate in a procession.
This is an extraordinary amount, which I think is symbolic of the sacrifice. You know, these are police officers from literally all over the nation. They will be coming from, we don't even know how many states have sent people yet. And that's so important as far as this symbolic gesture here that of unity of service that shows that whether you're a police officer in Nevada or in Idaho, you're all sharing the same tragic sets of circumstances when you lose the life of a police officer. You're all sharing in the same commonalities when it comes down to the threat levels. And this is what makes policing so unique. You know, there is a special relationship amongst law enforcement officers that is very much the brotherhood and is the thin blue line.
Certainly the length and size of this procession shows the magnitude of this loss to our community. And to Randy's point, you know, many of these officers coming from afar may not have known Officer Roscow personally, but you don't have to know him personally to know, you know, the sacrifice that he gave for our community. And fellow law enforcement officers, they have that mutual understanding of why they get into this profession and how much it means when unfortunately an officer dies in the line of duty, as we have seen here in our community. We saw that happen last week. Now we're watching parts of this procession arrive at Central Church in Henderson. We've seen members of the North Las Vegas Police Department there waiting to receive this procession. This is a department that hasn't lost an active officer since 2017. That was when Detective Chad Parquet had died after being hit by a wrong-way driver. Then prior to that, 1995, Officer Raul Elizondo was slain in the line of duty after he was fatally shot by a suspect. And Justin, you mentioned we even see tributes to Elizondo still in our community.
Yeah, Elizondo Elementary School was dedicated in his name in 1999. So if folks in North Las Vegas are familiar with that elementary school, that's how it got its name after he was shot and killed in the line of duty in 1995.
I was standing in that procession.
Were you? As part of the honor guard?
Yes.
Wow. And we appreciate you for your service and what you've done to welcome these folks for those funeral services. And as we take a look at Officer Jason Roscow here on that billboard right there. Certainly a sad day, but also a time to celebrate his life and to remember the positive impact he had on this community and the lives that he touched. So many people leaving messages of love and encouragement and laughter at the memorial that was growing outside of the North Las Vegas Police Department at the Northwest Area Command where he served. And it was so nice to see that. Even in the rain, you see all of these officers standing ready to go inside to welcome him here and to continue to pay their respects to this fallen officer.
Absolutely, rain or shine, they are here standing so solemnly, just waiting for that procession to complete its route and fully arrive at Central Church in Henderson. Such a lengthy procession, but it shows just how much this officer meant and how much of a brotherhood and sisterhood law enforcement truly is. We talk about, you know, the North Las Vegas Police Department needing some love and some encouragement and uplifting right now. Well, so does his family. And if you are looking for ways to support them, the two sons that Officer Roscow leaves behind, go to ipof.vegas. That's the Injured Police Officers Fund website. Right there on the homepage, you can find a link to make donations. There it is, make donations to his family. I'm sure they would greatly appreciate it. It's a long road ahead for sure for this family as they begin to wrap their heads around this horrible loss.
The family wrapping their heads around it, his fellow brothers and sisters in blue in North Las Vegas, but also other law enforcement agencies. I think about Nevada State Police. They lost 2 troopers in 2023 with Sergeant Michael Abate and Trooper Alberto Felix. LVMPD lost Officer Colton Pulsifer last year in 2024, Officer Trung Tai and Detective Justin Terry in 2022. It is so sad, Randy, how many of these we have seen in the past several years.
It is the reality of policing. And you know, I was a cop for 10 years in New Jersey before I joined the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. And I've got to tell you that the training that takes place here is exceptional. And there's a massive reason for that. And that's because through training is the best way to keep your officers safe. So when it comes down to how these officers are trained here in Southern Nevada, especially with Las Vegas Metro PD, they take that training very, very seriously, as they must, because that is the way to give officers the best chances of survival when it comes down to the violence that we all face. Every single officer, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when you're going to be involved in a violent confrontation. This isn't you know, some type of theoretical issue. It's the reality. And whether that is a fist fight or whether it is a deadly force situation, you have no idea when it's going to happen. And so that's why you always have to be mindful of the threats out there. You know, we've seen a lot of criticism of law enforcement when it comes down to use of force. And there is not one use of force that looks good, but they always have to be the winner. The police officer always has to win. And unfortunately, with the death of Officer Roscow, you know, at least we saw this, that he was such a warrior, he was able to take out his assailant, even though he was mortally wounded.
Yeah, that warrior spirit is certainly remarkable and something to behold. He was a hero, no other way to put it. Gave his life serving our community, and today is all about saying thank you to him. Such a beautiful, beautiful image we're seeing here. There's flashing lights, and in the background you see all those honor guard members, different law enforcement members waiting to receive more members of this very lengthy procession. Lengthy for a good reason. So many different law enforcement agencies, whether they knew Officer Roscow personally or not, they are here to show their support because he deserves it. He truly does. You know, Randy, you were talking about the dangers of the job. It may not even be from violent issues like that, but I mean, last year we mentioned the 2 state troopers, Sergeant Abate and Trooper Alberto Felix. I mean, they were hit by, police say, a drunk driver. So there's so many hazards on the job that
while trying to help
face.
someone else.
Exactly, trying to help someone else who also may have been an impaired driver. So there's certainly a lot of dangers officers face on the job.
It's almost an equal number of line of duty deaths. It's almost equal between traffic accidents and homicides, which of course does demonstrate the many dangers out there. There was an officer just last week who sacrificed himself when a speeding vehicle was going the wrong way on a freeway, and he purposefully put himself in a position to take that vehicle's head on.
Wow.
And knowing full well that he would be injured and lost his life. Shows you the dedication, shows you that these men and women know that when they put that badge on, that they may be called upon to face a life-threatening situation. And we see it every single day in America.
Walk me through, for people who may not understand, what is it about this job that makes somebody say, this is what I want to do? Is it more than just service to the community? What is it?
You know, I'm glad you asked that question, because the police position is not just a job. Having worked literally with thousands of cops over my, more than 30 years as a police officer and continuing in my present role. I know the true meaning of why they do what they do, and that is out of a sense of service and purpose. I have a podcast called A Cop's Life, where I interview extraordinary men and women who have faced incredible adversity and come out on the other side. And I can tell you that there is one commonality amongst those who choose the life of service, and that is who they are internally as human beings. And it is truly a calling as opposed to just a job. And that's why so many men and women spend their entire adult lifetimes in service to others.
Yeah, it takes such a special spirit to want to give your life for your community. And we know Officer Roscow, from what we learned about him in the week or so since his death, that he was someone who brought more people to the law enforcement profession. I mean, we've interviewed a police cadet who's getting ready to enter the academy and was being mentored in sorts by Officer Roscow. And she said that she wanted to take what Officer Roscow had taught her into her career in law enforcement. So clearly he's someone who's passionate about serving the community and passionate about getting more people to take the oath and do this important job.
And the spirit of service isn't something that just started when he got to North Las Vegas and started working for that police department. This goes back to when he was a kid. He was a volunteer fireman for the local fire department in Illinois, where he grew up. And then after he graduated from high school, he enlisted in the Air Force. He served as a part of the security police, and he was stationed around the world in places like South Korea, Iraq, Kuwait. So this is definitely something, to your point, Randy, about having that spirit of service, that this is what he was called to do.
And the trajectory of his life of service, from being, even as a youngster, being involved in the fire department, and then joining the military service. This is something you'll see very, very frequently with those who enter the law enforcement service. It didn't just start as when they became an adult, but they began that trajectory even as young people. It was something that is internal, that is something built inside of them to want to serve.
And to that extent, also the people that they touch who were young kids as well, because they see those officers and then they might think that might be what starts them on that path to wanting to become an officer when they get to be a little bit older.
And this is when we talked earlier about legacy and how important legacy of law enforcement is, because you can literally touch the lives of people that leaves a resounding part of their life in the future.
Yeah.
That's such a critical component of the joys of policing. Believe me, there's a lot of pain that goes along with it. You see such tragic circumstances, you see the cruelty that people are capable of doing to one another. And there's a lot of darkness that goes into being a cop. But there's also, on the opposite side of the spectrum, you see people at their best as well. You see those who, amongst your brothers and sisters, those who give so much, but also in the community. You see the way that communities come together as well. So it's such a fascinating profession. I did 34 years and still deeply involved in the profession. And I can't imagine ever doing anything else.
And on days like this is where we truly see the best of our community. We see so many members of the Honor Guard lined up there in front of Central Church in Henderson, getting ready to receive that procession, with the Celebration of Life service getting ready to get underway. Now, our Abel Garcia has been there at Central Church, and he actually just let us know that he's seeing maybe more than 100 even North Las Vegas police officers lined up outside of there. So it is an incredibly powerful and moving display as we see all of these officers there. There they are, certainly, I'm sure, holding back a lot of feelings and a lot of emotions right now, putting that aside and being strong for their department, for Officer Roscow's family as they get ready for a difficult journey ahead. It
really shows the support of this department and the strength of this department to be able to come together in this moment. I'm not sure, Randy, if I've seen and what feels like an entire department here standing out in front, ready to welcome Officer Jason Roscow.
Oh yeah, this is the entire North Las Vegas Police Department, including detectives who have many haven't worn their uniform in a long time, but as a symbol of respect, they are wearing that uniform, and that's important. That's important to this. And here's the other aspect of this. So, who's watching North Las Vegas? Well, every cop is here, and that would be Metro and other departments from around the valley who are showing that support by covering all of the calls that are taking place. Remember, crime isn't stopping.
Right.
Calls for service are not stopping. Somebody has to do the job, and this is when police agencies cover for one another as far as being there when they need the help.
Especially on a day like today when we haven't seen rain in 214 days. We know driving can be a little more difficult, so I'm sure those calls are definitely coming in.
Absolutely.
Just amazing to see the camaraderie and how law enforcement agencies really come to aid one another when an officer has fallen. We are seeing that on full display today. Likely the entire North Las Vegas Police Department standing here outside of Central Church in Henderson. Beautiful display of support as we get ready for that procession to make its way. You know, we've talked about the length of this procession, and it still is going. I mean, we're still seeing cars arriving at Central Church in Henderson, and it just shows the magnitude of this loss and how this is going to be something our community feels and is mourning for quite some time. But hey, when that celebration of life service begins shortly, we're looking forward to learning more about the man that Officer Roscow was. For those of us who weren't fortunate enough to know him, we're excited to see the man that he was and the impact that he had on this community and what he meant to the people in this community as well as his family.
Yeah, you said he was the life of the party is how some people described him, so I can only imagine that there's going to be at least a story or two that explains how he was the life of the party. In addition to being such a kind, dedicated, and compassionate person, as the North Las Vegas Police Department describes him as. They said his service went beyond the badge. And when you look at these other members who are wearing the badge, you can see how much service was about his life from all the folks who are here today. That procession is still going. Obviously, they haven't gone into the church yet because it is still going. It's a lot of folks that are in this line and a lot of folks from across the country who have wanted to be here for this day.
We actually just did learn that the procession has now moved off the highway, so it looks like we've reached that point and they're going to now be hopefully filing into the parking lot here at Central Church in Henderson. Very impressive procession today. Just stretched on and on. It felt like for miles, making its way from Palm Mortuary on South Jones Boulevard down the Las Vegas Strip, then the 215, back on the 95. Such a long journey they have made here to Central Church, and this is really just the beginning as we get ready for that celebration of life service. You see members of the Honor Guard standing there, just so solemn, I'm sure holding back a lot of emotion right now. But just doing what they need to do to make sure that this officer and his life and legacy is honored in the most proper way.
And we know that once he leaves here, he will be buried in Illinois, which is where he grew up. So I'm sure family members will have a special ceremony for him once they get back to Illinois.
We see some movement here.
And now we begin the process of filing into the church for that celebration of life service. You saw, though, the solemn moment, the drums that were playing as they lifted the casket out of the bed of the truck and carried it inside to the church, and all of the members of military now entering the church, also as family members going in first.
Yeah, we're going to see likely hundreds, maybe even thousands of people filing into Central Church here in Henderson for that celebration of life service that will get underway shortly. Of course, such a giant outpouring of support. People from all over our community, all over the country, coming here to say thank you to Officer Jason Roscow, who made the ultimate sacrifice for our community. Today is all about remembering him and saying thank you. And like you mentioned, Justin, we've seen so much symbolism and tradition intertwined throughout this entire process, from when that procession began at Palm Mortuary to now that it's reached Central Church in Henderson. The drums were really such a powerful moment, and I want to bring in retired Metro Police Lieutenant Randy Sutton. So tell me a little bit about, some of the significance behind that part of the procession.
So we saw that when the casket was being driven into between the ranks of the officers, and directly behind that were drummers and bagpipers. And those are hugely symbolic portions of a funeral for law enforcement and the military. And the roots go back literally hundreds of years. Law enforcement is a paramilitary occupation and organization, so we embrace much of the military past as well. And the march, the slow march with the drums, serves to keep the officers the cadence, marching to the cadence of that, and then the symbolism of the pipes, as they will play very somber bagpipe music. Sometimes it's Amazing Grace. That'll probably happen at the end of this ceremony here, which, if you don't, talk about bringing tears to your eyes. But the marching portion of this is very, very symbolic. At the end of this, Amazing Grace will be played. You'll hear not just the bagpipers, but there will also be a 21-gun salute, which of course is also borrowed from the military, and taps. Taps will probably have at least one trumpeter, one bugler, maybe up to 3, and there is nothing more poignant, if you will, than the morning sound of taps.
And before that moment, you also mentioned the slow salute.
Yes, the slow salute is, everyone is familiar with snapping to in a salute from the military, and rarely is a salute employed in the law enforcement world. It is really reserved for occasions like this. And as the casket is brought through the procession, the slow hand salute is just another part of the symbolism of respect that these officers are demonstrating.
It's beautiful sights and sounds to behold for sure. And our Abel Garcia has been there. We want to send things over to him now as he sets the scene for us a bit as we watch people file into the church. Hey there, Abel.
Anjali, as Randy just mentioned, this is the most emotional sight that we are seeing here. I mean, just being feet away from that moment when Officer Jason Roscow's casket was removed from the back of the North Las Vegas Police Department truck was so impactful. I mean, I mention it over and over again. Every time I'm here, you can hear a pin drop during that moment. But as Randy mentioned, a lot of emotions. Of course, we also witnessed who we believe was the family of Officer Jason Roscow right behind as well. And you just see the tears. The emotions are very, very heavy here in front of Central Church in Henderson, and it's just also remarkable, I have to say, to see the unity, to see how remarkable these men and women who are standing here in front of this church right now to honor and remember Officer Jason Roscow is truly remarkable. As we see right now, North Las Vegas Police Department walking in, as you guys mentioned a little earlier right now as well, this is the first time that I have seen just hundreds of members of our law enforcement department, North Las Vegas Police Department, standing here in front. But as we know, each law enforcement department is different, how they like to honor and remember their fallen officers as well. But just remarkable. And one thing too, rain or shine, these men and women who are members of our law enforcement, who are members of our community, are standing here in front to honor and remember Officer Jason Roscow, something that is very difficult and hard for many of us. We've also seen Sheriff Kevin McMahill here today. We've also seen other members of our law enforcement who are also here to pay their respects to this fallen officer. But again, it's just such an emotional moment. But again, you can just admire how organized, how disciplined, these traditions, these forms of celebrating and honoring the life of our fallen officers are. And right now, as we continue to witness the outpouring amount of people who are here, regardless of the weather, regardless of how cold it is outside right now, there are still so many people who are gathering here because they want to also not only honor and remember Officer Jason Roscow, but also pay their respects to the family and friends who knew this man, who dedicated, as we've mentioned time and time again, 17 years of his life to the North Las Vegas Police Department, from the traffic division to also back to the operating patrols, and just really making sure to protect and serve our community, not only of North Las Vegas, but really all of Southern Nevada. And that's what each one of these men and women that you see here today who are wearing that uniform do every single day in our community. So again, it's just truly remarkable as we enter Central Church here in Henderson for the celebration of life that will be held for Officer Jason Roscow. Truly incredible to witness all of the emotions and everything that it takes to continue to honor and pay respect to this fallen hero.